What's up, guys? Jason Guyman here with King of Pressure Wash. And tonight I've actually got two people on from the same company. Both of them are very young entrepreneurs, and they started right out of high schoolish, first year of college. And we're going to talk about their successes. We're going to talk about their failures. We're going to talk about what you can do starting a pressure washing Christmas light business in 2023 and how you have learned and what you have done. And I know I've got some other kids. That was one thing from the Huge that I seen, that there was a lot of young people at the Huge that are willing to take action and willing to do the job, which is really cool because at the end of the day, this is the future. These are our future people. You know, I've heard it a lot of these young kids don't want to work, and I don't always agree with that at all, to be honest. And so with that, I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves. Tell me a little bit about who are you, where are you from, and all of that good stuff.
Yeah,
I'll go first.
go ahead.
You want me to go first, Noah? All right. My name is Blake. We're from Supreme Clean in the Indianapolis area. We try to do most of our jobs on the north side where most of the money is. We started this business probably in the last year and a half, coming out of the last two winters. Mostly exterior maintenance company, Christmas lights in the winter, which is our favorite. And then Noah, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Noah, from New Pal. Same thing, we went to the same high school, played college baseball, kind of started this up with Blake, for myself so I can make some money, still swing a bat, train in the summer. And then I realized that, this was a pretty good market to be in. And I had a really good opportunity to, just build a success story at a very young age. So I, decided to quit baseball and dive headfirst into it.
All right. So I'm sending you all out some text because I forgot to do it. And so that's what I was doing while they were talking. So let's talk about what made you decide to, hey, you know what? I think that college sucks and I want to start a business and see if we can make this thing happen.
Easy. So the first thing was that really made that clear was I was sitting in class one day, and this is during Christmas light season, and I'm sending out $1,000 quotes, and then people calling left and right, and I'm sitting in class while these calls are coming in, things like that. I'm also missing calls, and I'm just sitting there thinking that I'm going to make more money installing Christmas lights this winter than what this degree would pay if I were to go get a job in this field. And Christmas lights is 3 months of the year. I'm like, I'm working 3 months of the year, gonna make more money than what this degree is gonna essentially pay me for whatever job I get. And I just loved being my own boss too. You can't be your own boss working for someone else. So that was the main thing for me when I realized this is stupid. I'm wasting my time.
So tell me about one thing too, because I know I will have somebody on here. College does suck. Jake Campbell put. Somebody had put. I haven't seen him on here. I'm sure he will be on here shortly, Mr. Tristan. But tell me a little bit about what made you go to college. And I know you played ball and football and baseball. Tell me about that kind of side of it. What was? Will you miss that? Are you still doing that, or was that one of the reasons why you were going to college, or things along those lines?
For me, college was, I'd be the first one in my family to graduate, so it was always really pushed. School was never really an issue for me in high school. I was it was fairly easy to me. I show up, you do the work, you turn it in, you get good grades. I really went because I wanted to, go play a college sport. It's always been my dream. So, I got that opportunity. Luckily, I had good scholarships with sports and with academics. So I was like, it'd kind of be a no-brainer to not try this. I've always wanted to do this. So, I went and did it. And as I was doing it, it was just, I was spending so much time. The school was still easy. It wasn't a problem. It was still mainly just the fact that outside of school. It was a full-time job playing baseball, but I wasn't making money doing it. And at the start of the year, it was always like, oh, I have this much in my bank account. And then by the end of the year, it was like, okay, well, now I have none because I didn't make anything while playing baseball. So it was kind of just like, okay, what's the deal here?
So one
Um,
thing someone put, not a good message to be sending out, but here's the deal that and here's the deal that I will argue against that, right? You know, as a business owner, we push go to college, go to college, go to college. And, you know, as this goes through and as you see people go to college, and then, like I have my good friend DJ always talk about, his daughter went to college and got her degree and literally is working at a makeup store at the end of it, right? She's lucky and got most of it paid for, but she still got $15,000 worth of debt, and she's making $15-18 an hour starting out, and she's been at that job for 2 years. And so as we think about this and as we grow, I would much rather see people go to school of hard knocks and learn the skills that you could take in any business once you learn how to become this here. So let's talk a little bit about that as young entrepreneurs. What have been some skills that you learned that you would never have learned in college?
Almost all of them. Me and Noah, again, we were talking about it at the Huge. We were talking about all the business majors you can do, finance, marketing, accounting. Like there's no sales degree. You can't get a degree in sales and that makes you money. All these things we were talking about, there is a marketing degree you can get, but no one teaches you how to advertise with a marketing degree. No one teaches you Google ads. No one teaches you how to do Facebook ads. They'll teach you basic psychology, but you're going to pay 40 grand at the minimum over 4 years to get that, where you could, and I'm not a crazy big course guy, but you can take a Google ads course for, let's say, $2,000, and you have one of the greatest skills that in today's era, I think you can learn. Facebook ads. I mean, you can, and Christmas nights, you can make so much money with just Facebook ads, or like I said, sales. You can go door to door with a sales skill and make more money than the kids that have the degree. To me, the biggest thing was the discrepancy of what you're paying to go to college versus what you're getting out. Back in the day, the ROI was there. Now I just see you pay so much money, and then the amount you can make with that degree now, it just doesn't make as much sense as it used to. That's my honest opinion.
I think to piggyback off of what he's saying just a little bit is we were talking about this on the way home, and he was like, I was accounting major at first, and he's like, I can go through school, I can get an accounting degree, but then I don't know how to market. Now you can go get a marketing degree, like he said, but then you don't know the accounting side of it. And I know you can delegate tasks and still run a business, but the point of that is, you go to school to learn one skill, but the school of hard knocks teaches you all of them.
One thing I loved about when we were at the Huge, because these guys were at the Huge, and Noah actually came up to me and was talking to me, and I love when the young guys come up and talk to me, because I love this younger generation that's got the go-to attitude, right? We got Nathan. I don't know if you all met Nathan while you were there, but he's another one that was at the Huge, and he's 23, 24 years old, and he's going to do $500,000 in a pressure washing and Christmas light business, right? Who knows how far you guys will get. And so I got to see other young people that have started in the college of Wesley Bloom and that. And so one thing that while we were there, Noah was there and Chris had came up, and I had stopped Chris to Chris Johnson, because he's a cool dude too. And so Chris Johnson was there with us too. And so Chris was kind of giving Noah a hard time a little bit. And so it was kind of cool to see. But the thing that I liked the most about these two gentlemen is that they were willing to listen, right? And they'd ask questions. And that's a thing that this younger generation is all about. As we get into the gig economy, this younger generation is all about asking questions. It's not just because I said so. And so it is something that as we were grilling Noah, he was like, well, how are you doing that, right? And so when we started doing this, what were some things that was going through your head of these old suckers don't know what they're talking about, or what were some things that was kind of going through your head and as you were learning?
For me, it was just funny, right off the bat. I don't even remember what started the conversation, but Chris was basically like, you know why you can't sell anything, and I was like, why? And, it's because my hat was on backwards. I had it on like this. And he's like, you look, you don't look the part. And and I at first I was looking at Chris and I was like, okay, well, you're a lot older than me. You obviously come from a different generation. You know how he had the T-shirt in tucked into his pants, hat on straight, all that. And at first I was like, I'm doing this stuff and I haven't really ran into a problem with what I look like. But the more we reflected on it and the more I sat there and thought about it, it's like, he's right. If I want to go to where I want to go, and if I look at the people that are where I want to be today, they weren't looking how I looked when I shook Chris's hand. They were, shirt tucked in, slacks on, dress pants, whatever it may be. And whether I took offense to that or not, he was telling me the truth. Whether he came from a generation or not, a different generation, it's still the same. The people that are at the top don't look how I looked at the huge.
Yep. What did Wes look like when he was walking around there?
I know he had his shirt tucked in. I know him and all his guys had their polos on. When I saw him, I saw he had his khaki shorts on, but I also saw all his guys, his whole team. They had uniforms on. You knew when you saw a Wise Guys person there because we were in a few classes with them, and they were all dressed the part, professional.
What I know you all told me something, but as you're looking at Wes, because a lot, who wouldn't want to look up the Wes, right? He's going to do 3.5 million. What were some thoughts that, and the cool thing about Wes is he'll talk to you, right? He'll voxer you. He will talk to you. He's not one that I'm greater than you. What are some things that you realize when you talk to Wes in person?
I didn't actually talk to him. I was around him and his guys. For me, the biggest thing, and it's the same thing I mentioned to you, was he's no different than me. It's so cool. I don't know if he has an upflip YouTube or not, but I know he's on YouTube and he's on all these podcasts and he has these big numbers. And from a distance online, it seems so unattainable. Or, what is the factor? Why is he doing this and I'm not? And it's easy to find an excuse of, oh, he's in a better market, or he's better at this, or he's got a better Google ad guy. When I just told him like he's just the same as us, especially how young he is. That was another big thing. Is this is a young dude. I think he's under 30, and if he can do it, I can do it. Why not?
What was your thought on him, Brad or Noah? I'm sorry.
My thought was more on his guys, and me and Blake talked about this a little bit. And a big message at the huge was building company culture, and I personally loved that all his guys, I don't know if it was all of them, but they were young kids like us. They were sitting in these meetings, and they weren't not paying attention. You could very well tell, like, when a light bulb clicked, like they were looking at each other talking about it, like, oh, did you hear that? Like, they're invested, and Wes has them invested in the company, and it's a big company culture thing that I really took away from the huge. And I didn't really know how much it mattered until everyone was talking about it, and I saw Wes and his guys, and I was like, okay, there's something clicking here. There's a reason these guys are doing this and talking about this.
And that's another thing too about Wes is that he's investing in his guys to go to the huge, right? And that's a huge thing. A lot of people won't do that. They're so scared. But Wes was saying his main guy that's in sales closed 1.1 million last year, and he's closed 1.5 million in sales this year. And so it is pretty cool that Wes is willing to invest not only in himself but invest in his guys. And this is an important thing. A lot of times we think that we know everything. We think that we have everything down and we don't need to do stuff. But in the end, it is important that we invest in ourselves. And this is something that is hard for a lot of people to be wherever they're at, is investing in yourself. So with that, what are some things that you took away from the huge other than just Wes? First off, what made you decide to go to the huge to see what was going on there?
Everyone talks about it.
Yeah, we had wanted to go last year, and it didn't make sense because we'd had classes the first week of when the huge was, so we couldn't. But and like you said, everyone was there. The speakers were phenomenal. You learn things in person that you can't learn online, and not only that, you pay to be there. So there's a little bit of, you have some money in the game, if that makes sense. It's much easier to write notes down and pay attention when you paid to be there and you're in person versus a podcast or YouTube video. It stung a little bit almost, if that makes sense, to drive to Nashville, take 2 days off of work to not be around your guys. But like you said, that's an investment that it will pay dividends. I mean, we had so many great conversations, like you said, with just the sales conversation with Chris. That was an investment that will pay dividends. I don't know the dollar amount, I can't assign it to it, but when Christmas lights rolls around and Noah's doubling the sales of what he should have been because he had a little conversation, I mean, who knows how valuable that conversation itself was, and we wouldn't have had that if we didn't go to the huge.
And I always say that if you open your wallet, you open your brain, right? And I know people say you can get it on YouTube for free, you can get all this stuff for free, but usually you don't open your brain. But when you open your wallet, you will open your brain. I promise you that. And I guarantee you, most of the time, you will get 10x of whatever you get, and you'll get more than that. And it's expensive to go to the huge. The hotel is $600. The room is $350. The gas to get down there, if you ate any meals anywhere in that building, it was $50. And everything's expensive, but in the end, it is worth it in the end, right? It is definitely worth it in the end. So it is definitely something that you need to do to make sure that you're being successful. So tell us a little bit more about what's your goal for your Christmas light business.
So from a monetary goal, and this is our BHAG, would be, we want to do $250,000 in Christmas lights this year. And we're basing that off last year's numbers, what we did, and then where we're at this year, next year's from the previous year. And based off the amount of guys we have, it's really going to come down to if we can get that amount of leads in and create that amount of hype around Christmas lights. Not only that, but a big combination of raising our prices comparative to last year. Basically, this year, we'll double our revenue just based off raising our prices. So there's a lot of factors going into that, and I've got 3 technicians, and then I also have a good relationship with a landscape company too that's allowing me to essentially borrow his labor when need be, because he slows down in the winter and we pick up. So I have a thing where we're consider like subcontracting out his labor and vehicles to take on any overflow of jobs that we might not have been able to handle in the first place. I can't hear him. Noah, can you?
No, I can't hear you.
As we grow this business, that's my fault. As we grow this business and we want to get to the next level, as a young person, what are some roadblocks that you've had to either overcome or that you may have to overcome?
So for me, mine was honestly my mind, my limiting belief. At first it was like, okay, I'm going to step into this market. I'm 18 years old when we decided we were going to do it. And I was like, okay, how am I going to compete as an 18-year-old who just got out of high school with these guys who have been doing this for 4 or 5 years? And then, like I said, we kind of just dove right in, not knowing what we were doing. I made a lot of mistakes up front, and it's little stuff, mainly equipment stuff for me. Blake can attest to this. He was always like, let's just, I'm going to buy the good equipment that's going to last. And I remember, it was probably 2 weeks when I first started going out, and I'm sitting there and I have, a backpack sprayer. We're really minimal. Like he said, our first rigs were a joke. He gets the Flexilla hose and I go buy this $25 garden hose, and I'm sitting there about to start washing this driveway. I turn the hose on, and next thing I know, my hose is busted. Everything's getting wet. So I'm like, okay, well, great. So then I start, next job, I go get a new hose. My backpack sprayer, which is worth like $100, breaks. And it was just like, that was a learning experience for me. It was just like, invest the money. If I'm going to do it, I need to invest the money up front, because again, it's just going to pay dividends in the future, because I'm not going to have to worry about all this stuff. So, definitely equipment, which is little, but the limiting belief in my mind that I am able to do this, just because I'm 18 doesn't mean that I can't, compete with the big dogs.
And I'm going to let you go too, Brett, but I want to hit on this one here because this is one of the most important things is the mindset, right? And it don't matter if we're 18 or 45 or 66. Mindset is definitely one of the hardest things that people will have to overcome to be successful. And I know someone put on here, not everybody's meant to be a business owner, but here's the deal about it at the end of the day. You know, if you have the mindset or you're willing to change your mindset, you can do anything you want. But if you have a mindset that is, oh, I can't do this because blah, 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 you fill in your blanks, then guess what? You will probably not succeed. You will fail. And that's just the part of way this is. And I hear it over and over. I can't do it because you can't get this in my area. I can't do it because I'm too old and I don't know how to do computers. I'm too young and I don't have no money, right? Well, guess what? There's old people that don't have no money either. And so you can always have an excuse. You could look like Nathan and be like, I look like a 12-year-old, or even Wes, right? Wes does not look like he's doing $3.5 million business. If you looked at Wes, you'd be like, what's this little chump doing? I never forget last year when someone sat down next to him and he was going to try to help him out. I'm like, you're helping Wes out? Yeah, I realized it was Wes after I seen it. But that's because Wes don't look like he's that part, and he's very humbled at the end of it, right? And that is one of the things that I love about Wes is he is very humbled. And I know I'm kind of hitting on Wes and you guys because both of you are young, and we just seen him this weekend, but it is definitely something that there is a possibility. For you all to already hit 150,000 this year as we speak, that is amazing. I don't care what anybody says. I know people on this podcast wish they had $150,000 because they can't hit $150,000 yet. So it is definitely something as we grow this business, and as your goal is to do $300,000 or first year full time, really is freaking amazing. I don't care what anybody says. It's freaking amazing. Did it take hard work? Yes, but you all are doing it, and that's the most important part. So I'm going to ask Brad, your part of it, of what has been kind of your set of being a young entrepreneur, or maybe a mindset or a block or something along those lines.
It almost goes back to the comment of the person that said that some people aren't meant to be business owners. I look at it as, I look at myself. I wasn't meant to be a business owner. I've got a stack of 40 or 50 books over here to the left that I've probably read in the last year and a half, and that didn't happen by accident. The amount of epiphanies I've had in the last 2 years just reading some of these books, that's what's formed me into being a business owner. Going to the huge, that if I didn't go to that, I would have lost that opportunity. Just things like that kind of formed me into being a business owner. Just keep learning. A big thing I heard Brandon Vaughn actually say was he always wants to feel uncomfortable because that's what it feels like to grow. I forget what the other thing he said that really stuck with me that's similar to that. He said basically the more epiphanies he has, the more he grows in business, and that's so true. All these books, if I read the whole thing and get one epiphany out of it, it was worth it because it would have changed my mindset on how I view something, and that's all being a business owner is changing your mind, having your views constantly change, and that's what'll grow you.
Chris just jumped on. He said, "What's up, young guys?" He just put on here, "Love that hat forward." So, Jason Hefner, I don't know if y'all met Jason while we were down there. He helping him to hit his goal for 300 this year also. So, and he's doing it part-time by himself. Nathan put on here, one thing that I got out of the huge was capacity, what it will take to hit my goals. And that is so true, right? It is something to do here. I'm going to hit on this question here, and I know we talked about it, and if you don't want to share it, that's fine. But somebody asked the question, and I think it is a good question, and I said I wasn't going to ask you, but if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. But what was your upbringing? Did you guys come from? Did you come from poverty, broken homes, divorced, whatever it might have been?
Do you want to go first or me?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. So I came from, I don't want to say poverty, but it was definitely low income. Mom was struggling a lot. Dad was in and out of jail, not in the picture at all, really. So I grew up with, hardworking mom, grandparents that helped out a lot. So, the thing for me was I hated asking for money because I knew there was no money to be given to me. So I always felt like a burden. Like even if I wanted something at the store and I knew my mom would want to get it for me, I wouldn't ask, just because I knew she had money to pay the bills, not to buy me extra things. So my big motivation for working was so that I could have this money to buy my own things and not have to rely on her or anyone else to support me. So that was a big driving factor for myself.
I want to hit on something else because I know that you said your dad wasn't there, and this is something that I think that I wonder, as you love baseball and as you had coaches, how did that affect your life to have coaches or people speaking into your life as you were growing up that wasn't your dad, but that was probably a big influence?
Right. So, coaches were a big thing. They always held me accountable, kept me motivated. I would say the best coach was my college baseball coach. And I told Blake this. I know he's not going to hear this, but he will one day because he's the only person that ever really, truly believed in me. I told him I was going to quit his team. I played for him. I invested my time. He was really looking forward to the future with me as a player. I went to his office and I was like, listen, man, I appreciate everything you've done, but this is it. And he looked me dead in the eyes and he said, we're going to name the field after you one day because you're going to be the first millionaire to ever walk through this facility. And I mean, that's going to stick with me. And I mean, that's part of my why. I want to walk into his office one day and be like, I did it. And you're a big reason why I did it.
How
Yeah,
about
my upbringing was a little bit different than Noah's from a financial perspective. I was pretty much, always taken care of. Um, my parents got divorced when I was either 4 or 5. I don't really remember. And I told you my dad he was in the financial market, so they had got divorced probably that would have been like '06, '07 ish. And then I was really young, so I don't remember a ton of it. But then '08 happened, and obviously being in the finance world, things got a little bit rocky. So those years were kind of rough. Um, I mean, I didn't really ever have a financial hardship that I had to take on for say. Um, so me and Noah honestly kind of come from a little bit opposite backgrounds. Besides my parents being divorced, I mean, life growing up wasn't too hard, and that's kind of why me and Noah wanted to start this business because I was able to see my family have success. And by any means, I didn't get anything handed to me. Don't get me wrong. So I would see them have success. I'm like, man, I want to be like that someday. I see they kind of get to do what they want to do. And my dad was also my coaches growing up most of the time. And you can ask Noah. He was the hardest coach on the field of me at any time. I mean, I didn't get any break. Like I said, you can attest from Noah from that. I just kind of wanted to pave my own way, and that's again kind of how I got into this. I'm like, man, I want to make my own money. I don't want to work for someone. I hate getting yelled at. So that was something instilled in me from my parents. Like I said, my mom actually lives in Birmingham now, so I only get to see her a few times a year. But when I do, it's great, and she's completely supportive of me, as I'd mentioned, and not so much my dad as far as what I'm doing in the pressure washing world, because someone coming from a white collar job and being able to kind of sit in an office and make a living that way, he doesn't really understand why I want to go this route because he saw me on the truck every day and work super hard. And he kind of started to get it after I was off the truck, and I'd sit in my office all day and be like, oh yeah, the guys would come to the house and bring me by checks, and that was kind of the first time. And he was like, okay, this is serious.
the one thing you said earlier, and I don't know if Noah you did, but you had talked about reading books, and I was talking to Wesley, and this is something that you look at millionaires read, right? And so one of the things Wesley does, I know he's like at 60 books. He tries to read 60 books a year, and so through that, he's actually slacking this year. He's only at 30 right now, but that is one thing that you had said that you read books. And so tell me about what have you learned by reading books and implementing at least one or two things out of each book.
So much. I told Noah we've built a business reading books. We actually try to read the same book at the same time. So we try to do a book a week is kind of what we try to do. And the reason behind reading the same book at the same time is because we'll actually talk about it and point things out that maybe the other didn't view the same way. But I mean, there's so many good books out there by people that have done this. For example, we're in the middle of $100 million offers right now. If you don't listen to or read Alex Hormozy. It's just someone you're missing out on. I mean, I'm sure you've read that book. It's such a good book, and there's so many like that. I'm looking over at the wall here. The Pumpkin Plan, Think and Grow Rich, The Ultimate Sales Machine. I mean, there's 3 books you read right there, and you can you can change your life, especially in the course of business. A lot of it's mindset things. A lot of it is technical things. For example, Who Not How. That was a game changing book on. Listen, if we would always talk about hitting the $250,000 mark, and we're like, it's pretty much. I mean, you can't do it obviously, but like we're not going to be able to scale and hit that goal, or if we do, we're going to be working 70, 80 hours a week to make that happen. And working 70 to 80 hours a week is not a scalable thing. At some point, you're going to reach a burnout, whether you want to admit it or not. So many things we've learned from books that I mean, I can attest to so much success from reading.
What made you start reading books?
I actually started in college. So when we had started this business, we had started it in college, and I didn't really know a ton about business. And I think the first book I'd read was Think and Grow Rich, and that was more of a mindset shift for me. I don't remember the exact things, but talking about changing the subconscious and things like that, and it worked. I'm like, this is real. The tips it was telling you to do. I'm like, well, there's tons of other books here. And when I was in college playing football, I was not mentally in a great state, and it was kind of something that just helped me get through that time and work on my business.
So David Hamill, he put, love seeing young guys working hard, having grit, and doing hard things to grow a business. Read Door to Door Millionaire, and They Ask and You Answered. Both of those. Have you read both of those books?
I've never heard of Door to Door Millionaire, but I think I have heard of They Ask You Answer, and I have not read that one.
Yeah, They Ask You Answers, done by Marcus Shelton or something like that, along those lines. It's a great book.
I'll have to check that out.
For too. I just got done reading Buy Back Your Time. Is a really good book too. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep. One thing I was going to say is Think and Grow Rich. So, I always say whatever rich people do, you probably should do too. And so, like, probably one of my richest buddies that I have, he says to read Think and Grow Rich 2 to 3 times a year. And he's like, you'll find something out of that book every time. And he's been doing it for like 16 years now, and he reads it 3 to 4 times a year. So that's probably.
I can see that. And to that point, we're actually
do, right?
Exactly. I think we're actually planning on changing our reading habits ourselves. We were, like I said, we were kind of a volume readers, read as much as possible. I think after I get through these next couple books, we're going to take like the top 10 or 5 that we've read and spend the next year or so diving into those, reading them a couple times. Like Think and Grow Rich will probably be one. I want to get into more of a habit of studying these books, almost than just trying to get through them. So that's something me and Noah have talked about from a reading perspective.
And how many people at 19, 20 years old wanted to read books and have read 30, 40 books at this point? I'm going to tell you a sad story. I didn't start reading books till I was 35, 40 years old, and that was audio books. And I didn't actually start reading real books till I started doing 75 Hard back a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, I am, I preach to read books, and audio books is a great way to read them, and that's how I do a lot of Audible. But, it is definitely something that I could always say that I never liked books because I couldn't understand or read. Again, I was putting things in my mind of telling me why I couldn't. And as I've been reading Think and Grow Rich, it's like I understand completely, right? And I like reading it because then now I can highlight it, I can do different things to it, and which is pretty cool to be able to do that.
Well, yeah, it's a discipline for sure, and I do love highlighting books. That's why I like the physical copies, because I do highlight them, and when I will go back, I'll almost catch it, and I wouldn't have caught it reading the second time. I wonder why I highlighted that or whatever.
Right.
I think something to hit on, because he was talking about how we do this together, was when we were in college. We were 2.5 hours away from each other trying to keep this thing going, the relationship and the business. And it got to a point where we were sending each other quotes of books we were reading like every day. It was at least something we were sending each other paragraphs. And I just want to point that out as like, you need a support system. You can't do this on your own. You can do it on your own, but it's going to be grueling. building something together, I think, is something that's very, very vital.
Yep, I agree 100%. You know, it's the people, the five people you're around is who you'll become like. So if you're around four other non-business people, you're probably not going to be a business owner very long because you're going to be very different, or you're going to have four new friends is what's going to end up happening.
You know, it's like the quote they say: you wanna go quick, go alone. You wanna go far, build a team.
That's a good one. Joe asked the question: what did you learn from your first year of Christmas lights, and what systems have you put in place from lessons you learned that will significantly increase your efficiency?
I know I had talked to you about this at the Huge. Actually, I was very fortunate because I'd actually bought my lights off of ChristmasLights.io from you, and I did not know that that was Fred Zimmerman, his company, and he had dropped off my lights. Long story short, I ended up talking to him and ended up actually working for him for a couple of weeks, and that was just such a great thing because I didn't need to attend a training or go through all the YouTube. I actually just got to learn by doing it. So that was super fortunate for me to do that, and I learned that prepping your lights the night before it will be save you a ton of time. If you can have them all bulbed up, all your males and females. So I cut mine into 25 length strands. That's how I do it. So I mean, they'll all be ready to go, and the only strand I'll have to cut and put a female on is that last strand. That's a big thing I kind of learned. And get a tool belt. Tool belt. You'll have all your stuff on you while you're up on the roof. Cougar paws. Get cougar paws, or you can get the goat or whatever you want to get. Um, but when you start getting busy, which I didn't know this was going to come, your prep work and your actual speed to be able to put lights up, or your team to put them up, is gonna come huge. Your capacity is huge in Christmas lights because you have such a short amount of time to put them up.
Yeah. This is probably going to be for Noah. What are the biggest ways of getting jobs and closing?
So not being afraid, I would say. So, like I said, I go door to door. I would say the biggest thing that I've learned is not being afraid to go into those high end neighborhoods. I started out going where I saw algae. I would go be like, okay, hey, listen, I know you got algae on the house. They don't care. I got a lot of people say, I like it. I was like, all right. So then I started going into the gated communities. It's a little scary at first. I got kicked out. I've got the cops called on me. I couldn't tell you how many times. So that's step one, just not be afraid. And then closing, I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But the biggest thing that I've learned is, again, from the book that we're reading right now, is just like showing them the value in what we're doing, and letting them know, you know, that they know they're not going to do it themselves, and that we're willing to do it for them. And another thing about the high end neighborhoods is, like, these stories are three-story houses. They're not going to get on the ladder 30 feet in the air and clean the window. I know they're not going to do it. So whether I throw them a $2,000 price or not, they're going to look at it and be like, okay, do I want to risk falling off this ladder? Or, do I really want to, trust this guy? And it's like, again, building that trust and building that relationship of, hey, I'm telling you, this is what we're going to do, and delivering. So, it's kind of on my end, but it's also on our crews. I tell them what's coming, but it's on our crews to deliver the product that I'm telling them. Because if they don't, then, you're going to get bad reviews. You're going to get all this stuff that you're not going to be able to close.
Yep. Um, Chris Johnson read Who Moved the Cheese. This is a great book to prep you for
Okay.
change that is ineligible to come. So, and if
Okay.
I can freaking talk,
Okay. Have to check that out.
it's a real simple book too. Jake put, my business partner and I have a very similar stuff. Great stuff. And coming back to excuses, just because F Bomb put this on here, anybody can come up with excuses. Everybody's got excuses if they wanted to use excuses. I'm 46 and disabled, war veteran, also been shot 7 times, stabbed twice, involved in an IED, 47 broken bones in my lifetime, broken back, major back surgery, knee surgery, and who else can say that? And he still works the truck, and he still goes out and cleans, right? And so you can have an excuse of why you can't make money. I hear it all the time, and it's one of the things that drive me crazy the most. But I love the story of you guys because you already hit 150,000 this year, and that's a huge success. And so a lot of people think that they can't do it for whatever reason. My market's saturated. And here's the deal with it. You guys are in you guys are in a pretty saturated market. I mean, there's a lot of competition up there. It's not like it's just you all. There's a ton of competition up there. So, what are some things that you do to set yourself apart from all of your other competition?
Like Noah said, fulfilling on the promise that the sales guys made. Essentially, if you can, there's a quote that's what is it? Undersell, over deliver. Ours is kind of oversell, over deliver. I mean, tell them how great of a job you're going to do, that everything will be great, and then do a great product. And if you get a call back, go do that call back and do a great job and make sure there's no issues. We've had 5-star reviews coming before from going back to a callback, because there's so many companies that won't even do the callback, or just proper communication. The amount of gutter cleanings we've done where the gutter cleaning, the clogged gutter wasn't even the problem, and it's, hey, ma'am, your downspout is not even connected to your gutter properly, and that's why it's leaking, because that's going to be a callback. If you go clean the gutters and there's a leak, just assume there's going to be a callback, because they were worried about that leak and you didn't fix that leak.
I would say, because I want to build off this, in-person bids, giving quotes out in person was a huge game changer this year. And they talk about it at the huge even, there's a big difference between sending an email over with the price that's, a high price because we're charging, we want to charge high, versus, meeting them in person and delivering the price, trying to close them. And then another thing is, we talked about it. I'm still, and I feel like we always still will be big on boots on the ground. And I don't even say it from getting jobs on the schedule, but more of getting our name out there, because every day we got guys that are knocking on these doors with our hats on, with our shirts on. We're giving them flyers. So whether they are interested or not, they know who Supreme Clean is. So, it's the branding aspect of it as well, not even just getting jobs on the schedule, I would say.
Oh, I thought they only knew who my guy was.
Oh, no.
There's a ton of competition in Indianapolis, but again, you cannot let that deter you. You might as well not go into business. I could think of 3 companies off the top of my head right now that have 500 5-star reviews. I mean, where it's going to take us years to even get close to that in reviews, but again, they're not doing boots on the ground. We know that. My guy, we know they're doing yard signs, but beat them in yard signs, or whoever your competition is. Just do more, 10x.
I want to build off this question here too a little bit, but I'll see what you all have to say. I'm still blown away when people say yes to the prices I give. I have learned so much from this channel. What have you learned about premium pricing, and why is it important?
I will have to talk about what Tommy Mello said and Ryan Lee said at the Huge, explaining that it's your right to charge premium prices, because the guys that are the $99 guy, they're not going to be in business, and say the client calls back, well, you're not going to be inclined to go do that call back, because you just made $99. I know Tommy Mello hit it on it big, explaining how you get the nice trucks, things like that, and it's your duty, because you can take care of the customer. If you charge a premium price, they're going to get a premium experience, and it's a snowball effect almost of, okay, then now you have the referral, now you have the 5-star review because you took care of them. But if you don't charge a premium price, you're not going to be able to take care of the client at the level that they deserve.
So one thing I want to hit on this is I was sitting talking and eating my ice cream. Yes, I ate ice cream and cheated while I was in Nashville. There was 2 other guys young come up, Corey and Cody. They're both young guys. One's from he's up in Canada, and the other one's from Indianapolis. He's actually in Indianapolis too, but he's more on the Greenfield side. And as we were talking, there was another older gentleman come over and shook my hand, and we got talking. And we were talking about pricing, of how he was so worried about raising his prices, and he's telling me he's at 15 cents a square foot, and he does have one competitor at 30 cents a square foot, but he can't go to 30 cents a square foot. And I'm like, why can't you go to 30 cents a square foot? And he said, I would lose half my jobs. I said, good, great. So if you're closing 50, 60%, you're going to be at 25, 30%, and you're going to make the exact same amount of money, but you're going to double your profit. that's a great idea that you double your prices and you get less jobs. And, I think a lot of times we have a mindset that we need to be working all the time or we're not making no money. And at the end of the day, we're not making no money because we're working all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We can't work on the business because we're working in the business so much. And, it's kind of like what Rawlings put here is it is scary. Don't get me wrong. It is probably one of the scariest things to do is, when you give out a $2,000 Christmas light bid, or when you give out a $1,000 pressure washing bid, or a $2,000 pressure washing bid. But, as I was telling this gentleman, I was like, you got to remember that first off, what is my number one is you are not your customer. And so quit thinking that you're your customer. I would never pay that. Well, good. Because do you live in, do you live in the $1 million house? Do you drive the Mercedes? Do you do that? No. Then does your kids go to private school? No. Then why are you telling me what they would do when you don't do that either? So it's important as we look at this and as we build value and as we grow our business, as we are looking at that. Is that something that you all would agree with, or do you struggle with that, or how did you overcome that struggle?
Yeah, I want to put it in a little different perspective, because Ryan Lee hit on this hard. That was
Mm-hmm.
a moment, a light bulb moment for me. He was like, charging 10% more, you will lose 22% of your customers. And the perspective he put it in for me, it's like, okay, I lose 22% of my customers. Now, guess what? I get Fridays off because I only worked Monday to Thursday, made the same amount of money. Now I get Fridays off. He's like, obviously, we're not taking Fridays off, but now every Friday, every week throughout the entire year is just increasing the profits that we did last year. Like that was a perspective that I was like, wow, like just 10%, like it's not that much. So that was something I was like, okay, that's really good way to think about it. Like again, we're not taking Fridays off, but every Friday is just going to be an increase in profits.
I was going to say the exact same thing off of Ryan Lee's class. Was he said, I don't know the exact math, but it was like you raise your prices 10% and your profit goes up 40%. Obviously, depending on your specific numbers, but that's how the math works out for that. And if you lose 22% of your clients, you still then added an additional 20% to your profit. And like Noah said, now you got Fridays off. I'm, it's also like you can always market more and fill the schedule too with a higher profit. Um, I mean, you have to raise your prices. A big thing I think if me and Noah could have went back would have been starting from the beginning with high prices rather than let's try and get jobs for cheaper prices. That is something if we could go back, I think we'd both change that. Start from the beginning with high prices because you won't even have to worry about losing customers because they'll be accustomed to the price you're servicing them at. Now, if you raise your prices, they might not like that so much.
Well,
I
and what
think
you
another thing is low prices attract the worst customers. In all honesty, I mean, the lower price you charge, the more callbacks you get, the more people that want more done for the cheaper price, and the high customers. And Ryan Lee even said it. He's like, the higher you charge, the happier they're going to be. So that was big.
I was just going to say that myself. Somebody posted about the book Elevate. I actually picked up 3 copies while I was there. Actually, I think I got a
I
4th copy that I'll probably give away. They gave a bunch of them away. So if you come to
I got
one
it
of my
right here.
in-person trainings, I'll probably give it away. And I just was kind of flipping through it earlier today, and it looks pretty good. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I asked this question, but I missed it. Is Kindle or Audible better option for book? I know the Kindle, you can actually have it read to you and follow along and take notes. I've never really used the Kindle at all, so that's the only thing I do know. So,
Yeah, I'm big on the paper books. Like Blake said, I like highlighting, you know, underlined and circle and stuff. With the Kindle and stuff, I can't really do that. I feel like there's a more of a personal touch when I'm just sitting there touching the book, reading the book. I feel like it's almost a form of meditation for me because I'm blocking out everything else that's going on, and I'm so toned down on this book that I'm able to, circle stuff, highlight it, go back, mark pages. So, that's why I like the physical copies better.
so the one thing I got away from the huge that I kind of laughed and chuckled, and I'll tell you where I'm coming with this is some of the bigger guys that were there, of how they still get clients. right? And so, everybody wants an easy button. Everybody wants, I want the easy button, Jason. Just give me the freaking easy button. I'll pay ads and give me the easy button. I want the easy button. I want the easy button. And the one thing, there is no easy button in business. I don't care what you do, there's no easy button in business. And so I talked to Wes quite a bit because he came by the booth, and some other people had kind of talked to him, and Chip asked him what was the best, or how does he market and that kind of stuff. And so he said he bought 7 pallets of signs, still does signs. He's going to do $3.5 million, and he had 7 pallets of signs. So I figured that was probably about 3,000 yard signs is what that would probably be. And so was a pretty cool thing to hear, that he does yard signs, he does 5 rounds, he does Google My Business, gets his 5-star reviews, and he does Google ads, and he does Google local service ads, and right, he does all of the things that I teach, right? Or I preach and I preach and preach, and everybody just wants an easy button, but he does all of those things. And then I talked to Mr. Hamill here, and guess what he does? He does yard signs, does the flyering, he does all of those things they ask you to answer, because I've checked out his website, and he gives them the questions, right? And he does all of the things that you got to do to grow a business. And so as we were looking at this, you guys are sharp as you grow and pour yourselves into your team, help them grow personally, learn their life goals, and help them achieve and invest in your team, and they will take care of you, right? And so, as David Hamill is a very successful businessman too, it's always good to listen to the successful ones. And so, as he says that, what are some things that you were going to start trying to work toward, maybe building relationships with different people or things like that? What are some goals that you've set for yourself?
For
We
me,
talked to a few guys at the Huge about getting into commercial work. We talked to you briefly about it. We had never had much success with commercial work. We didn't really know, the marketing for commercial work, the pricing. So that was actually, a goal of going to the Huge, was to talk to some guys, which we did, and we got a lot of good information. We learned a lot about LinkedIn and how almost everyone we talked to, LinkedIn's your route for commercial work. Talking to people, going into real estate offices, talking to property managers. And a big theme for every single person was, this is a relationship building game. This is not go sell these people. This is a long-term game. That was a big thing, was the commercial work. And then another thing that you said, the easy button, I wanted to hit off that because you said Google ads off the top. When we had first started this business, my sell to Noah was, hey dude, we can just run these Google ads and the phone will ring. If we want more jobs, we'll just up the ad spend. That was a huge mistake. First off, you can put an unlimited ad spend on Google. They're not going to spend all your money, especially if you're in a saturated market. So that was something we had to quickly learn, is there's no easy button. You need to diversify your marketing. And I wanted to add that in there, because that was a big almost roadblock for us, was, hey, our Google ads are turned to the max and they're not even spending our money.
Yep. Somebody asked a question, and I'll answer it because it'll tie into something else here. Great meeting you at the Huge. What are the details on your next Christmas-like class? So you can go check out kpwtrain.com. And there we have 2 Christmas lights class coming up. One in September. The Christmas light class is September 8th and 9th. The pressure washing class is on Sunday. Again, these are hands-on classes. Friday is all-day pressure washing if you want to do the pressure washing. Saturday is all-day marketing. It'll start at 8:30 and it'll probably go to about 8 or 9 o'clock, because Donovan's there and he likes to talk, and we all like to talk. But it's back to, we do that because of the networking, right? The networking is probably the most important out of this whole class. It's just like when we go to the Huge, or whenever I tell people if they're going to the Huge, I don't even care if you go to the classes, but network, because you just never know who you might be talking to, and when you have problems, you will get out of that. And so we do a lot of networking on that. and that's all day Saturday. In that class on Saturday, we just don't learn about sales or all of that, but we also learn about, stuff that I was telling you all about. We learn about the disc profiling, how to profile people, how to read people. We learn about 5 love languages. What you learn about love languages? What does love languages have to do with anything with pressure washing or Christmas light? It's how you get higher ticket sales, right? I teach how to sell, quit selling pressure washing and quit selling bulbs, because selling bulbs and selling pressure washing isn't going to get you high tickets, right? When you sell the magic is what's going to get you the high tickets. So that's all day Saturday. All day Sunday is all about Christmas lights. Again, hands on. The last Christmas light class about burnt the freaking building down. And so that was not a good day. That was the first for me completely. It scared the living crap out of me. So that did happen, and I got pictures to show it. And so that did happen, but we won't do it this time, I promise you. We'll make sure we use our little tool that we're supposed to use that I didn't use because I didn't preach what I teach, and that almost got me in trouble. So that's how that will work. I have one in September, one in October. Again, it is a very hands-on hands-on class. The one in October, you're going to get about an hour or two of Mr. Chris Johnson, which is a sales king. He is awesome at sales. So that is definitely how that class will work. Running seasonal local painting. So tell me a little bit more about the Google ads and how that didn't work, and what did you have to do to overcome that?
Yeah, so before we'd ever started business or done our first job, I just like Google ads. No, let's do Google ads. We'll be busy, and if we want to be busier, let's just up the ad spend. That's just simply not how it works. And like I said, especially if you have a lot of competition, they're buying clicks too. But you have to diversify your marketing. For example, yard signs might be hot at a particular time of year. They might not. But what happens when you're not in that hot season? You got to have something else to rely on. That's a big reason we started door to door. We're like, okay, well let's add another place that we can rely on work. Facebook ads, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. For example, Facebook ads work great for Christmas lights. Exteriors, not so much. I mean, they'll work, but I'm not sure there's really a great ROI on it. We personally didn't have too much luck with Facebook ads, but your LSAs, that's new too. Those will have your phone ring, but it's not gonna keep your phone ringing all the time. It's surely not going to during a slow season when people aren't even looking for your services. You got to know Google ads are gonna be great in springtime. But when summer hits, people aren't looking for your services. So how are you going to put it in front of them? Yard signs, door knocking, whatever it is. There's other options, and you have to have them, or you will get burnt quickly.
Yep. So Noah wanted me on. I thought he was going to do all the talking, and Brad's doing all the talking tonight. But I love it. I think Noah might have had a little liquid courage the other night, so that might have helped him talk a little bit more. So.
Maybe just a little bit.
It was Nashville. Come on.
Got us on the podcast, though. Come on.
Hey, I'm proud of you guys. I think you guys are definitely going to do awesome. I know you're going to do awesome. You got a great attitude, and you are learning a lot, and you keep moving. And to be able to do $150,000 within 8 months of going full time, and if you probably added it all together within the last year, you're probably over 200,000 with your Christmas lights from last season and that, which is pretty freaking awesome to see two guys that are just taking action and making it happen. And that's how we get to the next level, right? I think you guys will blow as long as you keep learning and keep growing and don't ever stop learning and growing. You guys will do maybe even more than where Wes is. And I truly do believe that. I think that it can definitely be done. Will it be in the pressure washing business? Maybe, I don't know, but I think you guys are two very smart guys, and that's what's cool to see you guys being successful. A lot of times what keeps people from not being successful is fear. They're so scared that they're going to fail. You know what, though? As John Maxwell put it, the faster you fail, the faster you grow. So don't be afraid of failure is if you're afraid of failure and you have that fear, you will never grow, and that's a guarantee. You will never get to where you want to be at if you're afraid of failure. Failure is not a bad thing. Failure is how you learn. You don't learn when everything's going good. You learn by failures. So, with that, what is one thing from each of you or two that you would tell someone starting a pressure washing or Christmas light business, that's young entrepreneur that's wanting to start?
That's all you know
I'd
first.
say I'd say take action. You hit on that big, Jason, at the huge, and it's so true. A lot of people have so many great ideas, and they just keep them inside their head, and they never actually put it into action. This wasn't either of ours first business that we started. We tested the waters with other things, and we're just entrepreneurial mindset. But none of it would have started if we would have just sat around and thought about a great idea. So taking action, and again, not being scared to fail. That was huge, because like I said, it was the limiting belief in my mind that prohibited me from starting this even sooner. And then finally I was just like, why not? Just do it. And then we talk about that. The Nike sign, or their slogan, just do it. It's such a big thing. Like, it looks so small because we see it everywhere, but it's so big. Like, just go freaking do it.
David Rawlings said he's booking you all guys to clean his windows. He's in your area too. Hey, and that's something else too
Sweet.
that you guys should do. And David Rawlings is a smart fella too. Is don't be afraid to, don't be competitors, right? People are like, competitors are bad. If you have competitors at that point, you're just a race to the bottom. But when you have connections with those people, then you all rise together, and everybody rises together, and everybody does well, way better at that point.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
what about you, Brad? What's a word of wisdom or words of thoughts?
I would say take a tremendous more amount of action than you think it's going to take. And this is piggybacking off Grant Cardone and Alex Ramosi. But a story from Alex Ramosi I've heard him say is he was starting his gym, and he said he had a mentor tell him to pass out flyers. And he talked to his mentor and said, "Hey, it didn't work." And the guy's like, "Well, how many flyers did you put out?" And he said, whatever it was, 300. And the dude laughed at him and said, "Well, 30,000 is our test size. How do you expect that to work?" And in Grant Cardone's the 10x, just do a lot more than what you think it's going to take, because it probably is going to, especially if you want to do something big. Big stuff takes big time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I love what Alex says about do something the 100 times, 100 days in a row, and you'll hit six figures. And it's true,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you spend $100 a day for 100 days, and there's a lot of things you can do that can definitely help you hit six figures, is taking action. And I just heard
Yep.
him say that story again about the only phone call he got was from damaging the Mercedes, and you know. I love that story. I mean, that's
Yep.
something that's so true, because I've had people be like, "Man, I've tried yard signs." "Oh yeah, how many have you tried?" "I put out 25 yard signs." I'm like, "And they didn't work, did they?" "Nope, they didn't work." "Well, guess what? Go
Yep.
put out another 10x that, 250, and then come back and tell me what worked or what didn't work."
Yep. We've had friends tell us door knocking doesn't work that are also trying to be business owners, and we kind of just laugh because it's like, okay, well, it's working just fine for us, so maybe go knock some more doors. And this is usually after 1 or 2 days of them doing it.
Yep. So, what is one book that you like that has had an impact, or something that was like a very big aha moment for you?
For
You can
me,
go
as a
first, Mel.
sales guy, it was Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That was a huge book. I loved it.
Like I said, Think and Grow Rich is I think, a great first book. But I would say The Ultimate Sales Machine is probably one of the best overall books. And for those of you wondering, it's really not a ton about sales. It's it's a great book. There's a few chapters about sales, but I mean, there's a ton of good business information in there.
Well, guys, I appreciate you coming on. You guys are awesome. One time again, you guys are definitely going next year when I have you back on. You're going to be hitting $500,000 or more. And so I do believe that you guys definitely can rock this thing and make it happen. You got the attitude, the will do attitude, which is 99% of this business. And that is what makes it awesome, right? And so, again, before we jump off here, if you want to go check out the in-person training, you can go to kpwtrain.com. If you want to know when I go live, I text the word King, King, to 859-696-1101. And that's when I go live. And then the last thing is if you want to check out the membership, I have a membership where you can join, and it has everything of how to grow a business. And then every Monday night we do a marketing call, and so it's actually like a coaching call. So we sit down, talk how we can grow through your business, and it's anywhere from 20 to 30 people that come on, and we all talk about how to grow business. So it is pretty awesome. But other than that, I hope you all have a great night, and we'll see you all later. Hang on.